Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for this square. Thank you for this beautiful square. It's gotten dark now, but I can still see everyone's heads, and I'm very happy to be here. I'm happy to be here because every now and then, I desperately need to come and get some energy from you, some enthusiasm, to remind myself why I'm living the life I do, and that every minute, every hour, every sacrifice, every day, every night when I don't get enough sleep. Every trip abroad is a response to this enthusiasm. And then I'm happy to be here because I'm proud to be here to support Francesco Acquaroli. I'm proud to be here with the center-right, and I'm proud of the work we've done over the years. I'm happy because we were in the same square on August 23, 2022. It was the first rally of the Brothers of Italy's election campaign in that case. 3 years and more have passed. We've been governing the nation for 3 years, and today in this square there are more people than there were in the past. It was only yesterday, and it wasn't a given that after 3 years of government, there would still be so many people placing their trust in us, encouraging us, lending us a hand, standing by our side. It truly repays us for anything, because it means that Italians see that we're giving it our all. It means that the commitments we made to the Italians, the expectations Italians had, have not been disappointed, and we really are giving it our all. Believe me, things clearly don't always go as we'd like. They don't always succeed in the time frame we'd like. But we haven't spared ourselves a single day. You know, we operate in a very complex international context, in an Italian context compromised by years of terrible politics, and a system in which many do everything to maintain their privileges. But we haven't used one thing or another as an excuse for not responding or not fulfilling the commitments we'd made. On the contrary, we've seen those difficulties as a spur, as a chance for us to demonstrate our worth. We've seen the difficult international situation we find ourselves in as an opportunity for Italy to finally be central, authoritative, respected, serious, credible, reliable, and frank in the international context, earning respect in the world, always putting its national interest first and already. This frankness, this authority, this ability to always have its say, for those who had known an Italy that limited itself to following decisions that had been taken by others, represented first something new, then something to look at with interest, and finally something to respect. But in the articles, in the many comments, even internationally, that talk about us, they're not talking about the government, they're talking about you. They're talking about this nation. They're talking about its capabilities. They're talking about Italy for what it deserves. A nation capable of being a point of reference, of being a point of reference for Europe, of being a point of reference for the West, of being a point of reference because we are proud of who we are proud of the civilization from which we come, we are proud of the values we defend, and we know that those values can help us provide answers in such a complex time. Perhaps this is precisely what makes our adversaries so nervous, that ultimately we are demonstrating that politics can be serious and credible, that the interests of Italians can be defended, that Italy can once again run, be chaste, and amaze. A couple of days ago, I read a headline in the British newspaper The Telegraph that read, "You know Europe is in a mess when Italy is the standout performer." This headline, one of many I could cite, reflects a certain arrogance to which we have become accustomed from our European partners, but it also conveys a very clear idea of how they saw us before and how they see us now. We were lagging at the back of the queue, and today we are leading the way, setting the pace, because that's what a nation like Italy deserves. Clearly, this isn't happening thanks to the government. It's happening above all thanks to Italians. The difference is that Italians today know they have a political system that can stand by them, that can be an ally, not an adversary, that can help change things because it believes in the value of those citizens, its businesses, its workers, its families, because it feels the weight and value of the nation it represents. And perhaps it's actually only this awareness, this pride in traveling the world and speaking with any partner, knowing that behind you is an extraordinary nation, not a nation you should be ashamed of, that makes the difference from the past. This is the only real difference from the past. This authority, this credibility, isn't simply a matter of pride. It becomes many things. For example, it becomes the ability to attract investment. In 3 years, we have signed agreements that will bring, or are bringing, approximately 80 billion euros of foreign investment to Italy. It's as if we passed a new financial law every year, thanks to the stability, credibility, and seriousness we have demonstrated. And clearly, we are using that credibility to address such a complex historical moment, to bring peace. Antonio Tajani has already spoken of it. From the war in Ukraine to the terrible crisis in the Middle East, triggered by Hamas terrorists who still refuse to free the hostages, exacerbated by Israel's decidedly disproportionate reaction, which is causing an unacceptable number of civilian casualties. This situation can only worsen with the decision to occupy Gaza City, a decision Italy cannot support. Let's try to help build peace, with answers and not just slogans. This international credibility portrays a reality quite distant, I'd say light years away, from what the left had imagined. After all, as I've already said, the left hasn't made a single correct prediction in decades, and they've made plenty of predictions about us. As I was preparing the outline for this speech, I remembered a few. The first prediction is that the Meloni government will fall after a few months. We are currently the 4th longest-lasting government in Italian history out of 68 governments in the history of the Republic, and mind you, when in a month we become the 3rd longest-lasting government out of 68 in the history of the Republic, it will be worth noting that the 3 governments that have lasted the longest overall were the 3 center-right governments. But you shouldn't be surprised, because ours is a solid alliance, an alliance founded on a shared vision. And I want to say this also to all those who struggle every day to write that the majority is divided, that we fight, that we throw papers at each other. I can stand by enthusiastic reconstructions. Perhaps in the hope that this will happen. Face it, we've been together for 30 years, and we will continue to be together. We will continue to be in government. We will not waste this historic opportunity to give Italy what it needs. We are together not because we are forced to. We are together because we want to be together. I am proud of the alliance that governs this nation. I am proud of all the people you have seen on this stage, and I thank them all, of course. Antonio, Matteo, Taliani, Antonio, Maurizio. And I hope I haven't forgotten anyone. but the entire center-right. I'm proud. Try asking this question in the other camp. Try asking the Five-Star Movement if they're proud to be allied with the Democratic Party, or the Democratic Party if it's proud to be allied with the Five-Star Movement, or everyone if they're proud to be allied with Renzi or Abus. They'll be left scratching their heads. I heard Conte say a few days ago that we're not allied with the Democratic Party. Our plan is to send Meloni home. First, Count Massetti would have been proud of Giuseppe Conte. Second, what kind of plan is it to send Meloni home? But I'm not with the other center-right parties because I have to prevent the left from governing. I'm with the other center-right parties because I'm trying to govern this nation, to give it a future, to give it hope, to give it a chance. Not a government against others, a government for Italians. Prediction number 2, another of the left's highly successful predictions, is that the stock market will collapse, there will be a financial storm, a spread of 600, and they'll go home like that. The Italian stock market has had one of the best performances in Europe. Italian government bonds are in high demand. The spread is at its lowest level in 15 years. A third of what it was when we took office, which means we'll save tens of billions of euros in interest on the debt that we can invest in what citizens need. Healthcare, where record funding is already available, jobs, businesses, and solutions we can provide. Prediction number 3, they'll abolish the basic income, there will be a revolt, the South will collapse, and with the center-right, uncertainty will increase. This didn't happen. What happened was that when we abolished the basic income, those who could go to work finally did, and those who couldn't work now receive a more substantial check than they received with the basic income. What happened was that we created 1 million more jobs, most of them permanent. Female employment increased, and believe me, no one can be more proud than me that under the first Italian government led by a woman, employment for women in Italy is increasing. Because that's equality, that's freedom. Not having to choose between having a career, having a child, not being discriminated against, and we're building it. But it's also happened that in recent years, the South has been Italy's driving force. Southern Italy has grown faster than the national average, and the number of people employed is the highest ever recorded in southern Italy since 2004, that is, in the last 20 years. And on this too, we proved them wrong. How have we proved them wrong? We've invested in infrastructure, merit, and training. We've implemented concrete tools, such as the Special Economic Zone, which we're now extending to the Marche and Umbria regions, allowing these regions to compete on equal terms. We've had the courage to say no to the welfare system with which our adversaries regularly try to gain some easy consensus. Currently, we have the proposal for a European citizen's income, a national one, and even a regional one, which, if you put them together, means these people should earn more than a worker who goes to work, or even more than a teacher who goes to work. Essentially, those who work in Italy should work to pay the wages of those who don't, but that will never be our solution to this problem. We've demonstrated that other tools can build and create jobs. The difference is that in their fantastic world, there's the right to an income. In our real world, there's the right to work. The kind of work that gives you dignity, the kind of work that allows you to improve yourself, the kind of work that allows you to escape poverty. Another wonderful prediction is that with the right-wing government, the rich will be favored, and the middle and low-income earners will be abandoned. Exactly the opposite happened. This was the first government to ask banks for contributions to include in the budget provisions aimed at those with low and middle incomes. It's not that we don't remember when, instead, the money of working people, with the proceeds of low and middle income earners, paid for the bailouts of the banks. It's not that we don't remember the super bonus with which we allowed the renovation of second homes, even castles, spreading the debt across everyone, even those who didn't have a home. It takes courage to talk about the minimum wage today as a great solution for Italy, because in the 10 years you've been in government, dear friends of the left, if the minimum wage was this great answer, you could have done it while you were busy with other things. With the right in government, tax evaders will celebrate. We're the government that achieved a record-breaking fight against tax evasion in 2023 and 2024. We recovered a total of nearly €65 billion in tax evasion, an all-time record. If we were friends of tax evaders, what should we call those who came before us? Who didn't achieve these numbers? How did we do it? We finally passed a tax reform that had been awaited in Italy for nearly 50 years, which designs a collaborative tax system, that is, a tax system capable of distinguishing between those who want to pay taxes, but are perhaps in difficulty, and those who don't want to pay because they want to defraud the state. We are understanding with the former and decisive with the latter, because that's what a fair state does. A fair state, for example, wouldn't allow thousands and thousands of businesses to open and close, mostly in the hands of non-EU citizens who don't pay a cent to the state. We closed them down. Then they said, we wouldn't be able to manage immigration with our proposals, and here too, it seems to me, things are going a little better. Landings have decreased, repatriations are increasing, and the policy for managing migration flows in Europe has completely changed. In Italy, and hopefully in Europe, thanks to Italy, the era in which we endure immigration is over. The era in which we govern immigration has begun. The message being sent today is clear, and everyone knows it. Italy can only be entered legally, and smugglers and traffickers will not decide who can enter our country. I say this also to reiterate that if anyone thinks they can prevent us from managing this phenomenon, if anyone thinks they can prevent us from fighting the maritime mafia, they must resign themselves, because they will not succeed. There is no bureaucrat, no politician, no minority of politicized judges claiming to replace the national government who can prevent us from managing this phenomenon to protect the safety of our citizens. And here lies another wrong prediction from the left. They will never have the courage to reform the justice system. We will bring justice system reform home before the end of the legislature if you confirm it in the referendum, because it is necessary. I was deeply struck by the fact that not long ago, a judge wrote in an email that Meloni is dangerous because she has no personal interests and does what she does based on what she believes in. Do you think these characteristics are the hallmarks of a dangerous person? I could be dangerous if someone wanted to blackmail me, but I'm not open to blackmail. The only constraint I have is the commitments I've made to the citizens. Among the commitments we've made to the citizens is that of freeing the judiciary from the factional degeneration that for years has meant that, in some cases, decisions were made not so much based on merit as on affiliation, on loyalty to a particular faction. I think it's time to free the vast majority of magistrates who want to be judged on merit. And I believe that when we succeed in doing so, our justice system will be fairer, more effective, and more efficient. And so we do it, above all and as always, for the citizens. We want to move forward with justice reform, prime ministerial reform, differentiated autonomy reform, and Rome capital. We want a faster, more modern Italy, respectful of its citizens, and we don't lack, as has now been discovered, the courage to dismantle the established systems of power that have turned Italy into a swamp for respectable people. We don't lack the courage to restore to citizens the freedoms that have been suppressed, the freedom to truly choose who governs them, the freedom to do business, the freedom of education. I could name dozens. Here, too, we contradict perhaps the most common prediction our opponents have made about this government. With the right in power, there will be an illiberal shift. When I occasionally ask what measures demonstrate that Italy has undergone an illiberal shift, they cite the security decree. First the security bill, then the security decree. This topic needs to be explored further. What provisions are included in the security decree? I'll go with the list. Increased sentences for those who threaten or assault law enforcement officers, legal protection for military personnel and police officers who are investigated for offenses related to their service. We thank our military personnel and our law enforcement officers again today with a round of applause. Crackdowns on scams targeting the elderly, measures to prevent minors from being used for begging, measures against pickpockets, a new crime against prison riots, measures to criminalize those who block roads or railways to demonstrate. You're all illiberal anyway, I want to tell you. Rapid procedures for the eviction of occupied homes, thanks to which we're moving more quickly against illegal occupations, and we've now cleared over 200 entire buildings and over 3,500 homes. There's a difference between us here and the left. We're working to develop a housing plan for young couples, while they're working on housing plans for the Leoncavallo family at community centers. These are choices. I'd like to understand, does the left consider these regulations illiberal? There's been a law that's pushing us toward authoritarianism, pushing us toward liberalism, restricting freedoms. But what are these freedoms we're supposedly restricting, and that the left instead wants to defend? The freedom to send minors out to beg, the freedom to mug, the freedom to insult the police, the freedom to squat illegally. That's not my idea of freedom, and I'm proud it isn't. I'm proud to be light years away from this idea of freedom, and I'm proud of those measures. Speaking of freedom, here too they accuse us of wanting to repress dissent. It seems to me that it is rather them who would like to silence unwelcome voices. They accuse us of making hate speech. But trust me, there is no one else in Italy who is the object of hate speech as happens to me, and I can hardly hate myself, me, the ministers, the brothers of Italy, the center-right parties, everyone, The latest is a city councillor in Genoa today, I think from the PD, who addressed the group leader of Brothers of Italy, a woman among other things saying we have hung you upside down once already, and I want to say this because, since Elishlein told me a few days ago, La Meloni give examples, give the names and surnames. Look, Eli, if you want me to do them for you, it will take half a day, and so I also want to report this. We try to do our best. We have ideas that are shareable or not shareable, but we cannot get to the point of saying that people have dirty hands blood. You're a murderer. I spent a few years in opposition. A few years, and I don't know if you remember, but I wasn't one who made mild opposition. I never needed to use these arguments. Let's bring the debate back to where it belongs, because it's difficult for some people, though. I want to say this too, because they don't know what to say. This is absolutely true. Thank you for suggesting the answer. However, some do it as a political strategy, probably because they don't have many arguments. Others, in this case, are more outside the government, and instead do it for personal gain. Hate business has become a thing. I read social media posts every day full of hatred, insults, and accusations against me and the government, and they're almost always accompanied by an invitation to buy a book, an invitation to buy a ticket to a theater show, an invitation to buy something essentially. So, it's all great, but I don't want to be lectured on morality by these people. I don't want to be lectured on morality. Sell your books and sell tickets to your shows if it makes you feel better, but don't lecture me on morality, given what you're speculating on. I could go on with a million more predictions, but can you trust someone who needs to lie like that to try to be convincing? Because I've given 5, 6, 7 examples, and I could give 50, but as I said when I took office as Prime Minister, there's nothing that makes me happier than doing what the odds hadn't predicted, and that's kind of what's happening, thanks to you and your support. It's the work we started. It's the work we intend to complete nationally and in this splendid region, where, thanks to Francesco Acquaroli and his entire team, we're finally rebuilding on solid foundations after too many years of neglect, irrelevance, and failed management. The work we've done in these years in the Marche wasn't just day-to-day management. We questioned the major structural shortcomings of such a proud, hard-working, and capable region, and we attempted to address those problems. The problems that, for a change, no one had the courage to address before us, because they were the most difficult to solve. We started with the topic of infrastructure, because I always say when I come here to the Marche that it's incredible that a region located in the center of Italy is so difficult to reach. It's obvious that you can produce the most beautiful clothes, shoes, and products, but if you don't have the speed to stay on the market today and be competitive, because you start with a challenge, the infrastructure you can count on, it's clear you can't compete on equal terms. We've done a lot of work. We've created a real supply chain with Francesco between the national government, the regional government, and here in Ancona as mayor, and we've provided solutions that you know about, and that Matteo also mentioned. The Galleria della Quinza, the so-called last mile between the port of Ancona and the Triatica, the guaranteed investments in the Salaria, the decision to decisively move forward with the high-speed rail project along the Triatica backbone, the Piedmont Road to connect the inland areas. I've heard this already discussed too. I won't go back on it. I simply endorse it. Transforming the face of this region, empowering the people of the Marche, one of the most industrious and proud people I've ever met. to express their full value and potential. So the answers began to arrive. The Marsh region regained its strength. The employment rate grew above the national average. Exports strengthened. Tourism recorded unprecedented numbers. And then healthcare. Why do some people talk so much about healthcare? But aren't we forgetting when hospitals were closed and healthcare wasn't that important here in the Marshia region? It takes a bit of intellectual honesty to admit that there are results. Today, the Marshia region is among the 5 most virtuous regions in Italy in terms of respecting essential levels of care. Accounts are in order. And this is also thanks to the healthcare reform promoted by Francesco Acquaroli, which rebalanced services, but without increasing the cost to citizens by a single euro. And then I mustn't forget the step change in reconstruction after the 2016 earthquake, the extraordinary work done on the 2022 flood. We can always do better, and we will do better if you decide to reaffirm your support. When I asked some people how things are going in the Marsh region, how do you see Acquaroli? Some people replied that he's not good at communication, and it makes me smile because I don't know. It's possible. But always trust a politician who does more than he talks, and trust a politician who talks more than he delivers. Always. Those who work hard sometimes forget to explain it properly, and sometimes it happens to me too. We have nothing else to offer you, and I'm going to conclude with our commitment, our determination, and the courage to stand up even to the most difficult challenges. 5 years ago, this region's fate seemed sealed. It was a discouraged territory, thought to be headed for decline. But decline, as I've said many times, is never destiny. Decline is always a choice. We've worked to reverse that decline, and the results are coming. We can not only defeat that decline, we can also be a region that amazes others. I believe few regions in Italy, like the Marsh, can and know how to do this work well. So, give it your all these last 10 days. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your enthusiasm. Thank you for your support. Long live Francesca Acquaroli. Long live the March. Long live the center-right. Long live the Brothers of Italy. Thank you.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to Mirror Now.